Chapter 116, Karaoke. Let's see what we're dealing with here, Shoko said, circling Geto, getting ready to give him a haircut. He was in Gojo's swivel chair with a large towel draped over his shoulders. They spread large garbage bags out on the floor to catch the loose hair. The small trash can from the bathroom was nearby. Shoko absent-mindedly snipped the scissors in the air. She marveled at how long his hair had grown since she last cut it during his hospital stay. "Be careful with those," Gojo teased from his seat on the bed. "For a doctor, you sure are careless with sharp objects." Shoko smirked at him, then turned her attention back to Geto. "Don't move," Shoko told him. "I didn't bring any lollipops for you, but try to behave anyway." Geto laughed, causing the towel to shift off of one of his shoulders. Gojo reached out to fix it. Shoko noticed the tenderness in the gesture. "Ugh, these guys," she thought at first. But deep down, past her concern for what the relationship might mean for the Jujutsu world, she was happy for them. It just seemed right. But she was no stranger to the chatter about Gojo and Geto. People turned to them as a subject of interest when they had nothing better to talk about. She stopped herself from saying too much when she wanted people to leave them alone. If she came off as too defensive, it would just call attention to the fact that she was the closest to them and she didn't want to be badgered with questions. She'd spent the better part of her earlier years trying to convince her friends that she wasn't pursuing Gojo or Geto as a love interest. That was exhausting enough. Shoko started trimming the first layer of Geto's hair. "Gojo, when are you gonna let me cut your hair?" she asked, keeping her eyes trained on the ends of Geto's black strands. Gojo ran a hand through his short, tufty hair. "No one cuts it but me," he said haughtily. "Yeah, it looks it," Shoko shot back. Gojo scoffed, and Geto snorted and tried not to move his head. "Hey, some of us are going out for karaoke tonight. You should come too," Shoko suggested, after a few minutes of quiet cutting. She was too focused to notice Geto's shoulders stiffen. "Oh, where?" Gojo asked, grabbing Choco Cat from the corner of the bed and hugging it. "Big Echo, the one in Akihabara." "Suguru, wanna go?" Gojo looked at Geto over the rims of his sunglasses. "Oh, Geto didn't want to be the killjoy, but he couldn't think of anything he'd rather not do than to be locked in a noisy room all night with people he didn't know. "There's only 5 of us going so far, unless my roommate or her boyfriend invited more," Shoko said. Gojo touched Geto's knee. "We're supposed to go out more, remember?" he said softly, reminding him of their new life goals. Geto swallowed hard. "Okay, we'll go," he agreed. "For a little bit," he made sure to add. As Shoko finished the haircut, she and Gojo went over the details for the night. Geto tuned them out and tried to calm the wave of anxiety starting to build in his belly. "Here, I'll do that." Gojo's voice and movement snapped Geto out of his thoughts. Gojo dropped Choco Cat back on the bed and took the comb from Shoko's outstretched hand. Shoko traded places with him so she could finish trimming Geto's bangs. Gojo stood behind him and combed Geto's hair out from the scalp to the ends. Geto immediately relaxed from his touch. Shoko held Geto's bangs in between her index and middle fingers. She smiled at him before she picked up the scissors. He managed a small smile in return. She smelled faintly of cigarettes and antiseptics. She dropped the small chunk of bangs she'd cut in the garbage can and sat back on the bed to scrutinize her work. "Take a look. Let me know if I need to fix anything," she told Geto. "It's okay. I trust you," Geto said quietly. Shoko had never messed his hair up. "Let me take a look." Gojo plopped on the bed next to Shoko, purposely scooting into her hip, causing her to tip over. She righted herself and punched him in the arm. Gojo didn't notice. He was too busy looking at Geto. Shoko rolled her eyes and stood up, carefully taking the towel off Geto's shoulders. She went to the patio and shook off the towel over the edge of the rails. While she was out of earshot, Gojo leaned forward and put his palms over Geto's knees. "We don't really have to go tonight if you feel that strongly," Gojo assured him. "No, it's okay. You're right. We should go out more. Just let me know if it gets too much." Gojo squeezed his knees lightly. Geto nodded. Shoko returned to the room and said her goodbyes as they finished cleaning up. "See you in a couple of hours," she called out through the crack of the door before she closed it completely. Geto dressed in all black. His favorite going-out top was a slouchy, deconstructed sweater with thumb holes in the sleeves so he could keep his hands tucked in. His wide-legged pants were adorned with silver buckles and accents. He bent down to pull the laces of his combat boots tighter. His hair was only half up, and he left the small bun at the back of his head loose and messy. He looked more Tokyo streetwear model than someone going to sing karaoke. Gojo was in black, too, from his snug-fitting jeans to his leather jacket layered over a hoodie. He broke the monotony of the outfit by slipping on bright red sneakers. He tucked his wallet and phone into his jacket pockets and waited for Geto to finish buttoning up his coat. Akihabara was drowning in lights and noise. Gojo's grip around Geto's hand tightened as they made their way through the crowds to the karaoke complex. Geto flinched at the random faces coming at them from the opposite direction. By the time they made it to Big Echo, Geto's nerves were already frazzled. Gojo gave him a hug and a kiss in the elevator. The hallways were narrow, glowing with neon arrows. The walls were plastered with posters of idol groups. They passed up the room Shoko had rented before they realized their mistake and doubled back. Gojo slid the door open to the soundproofed room. "You made it!" Shoko yelled over the background noise of voices laughing and music playing from the big screen TV. Shoko looked cute in her sparkly black sweater and short purple skater skirt that swirled around her hips when she moved. She tiptoed to give Gojo and Geto a hug. "Gojo, Geto." Nanami strained to be heard over the chaos of the room. He patted Gojo on the back, but leaned in to give Geto a hug. This did not go unnoticed by Gojo. "What are you drinking?" "I was going to get a highball," Nanami asked. "I'll get a soda later," Geto told him. He and Gojo weren't much for drinking. Gojo completely abstained from alcohol, and Geto didn't like feeling disoriented like he did when he drank. "I'll get us something," Gojo said, touching Geto lightly on the arm. "Yeah, thanks," Geto said. He watched Gojo grab a menu off the center table. Shoko and a small entourage surrounded Geto and Nanami. Geto recognized Shoko's roommate, Hana, and Hana's boyfriend, Sota. The others also worked at the infirmary in some capacity. There were 10 people in total, but to Geto, it seemed like 100. He'd already forgotten everyone's names. Nanami left his side to order some food and drinks, and Geto stood awkwardly in the middle of the room. He decided to hang his coat on the rack to look less conspicuous. From the corner, Geto surveyed his surroundings. The soundproofed walls were covered in colorful vinyl padding. The lights pulsated a rainbow of colors. A wraparound couch hugged the walls. The center table was strewn with half-finished drinks, stacks of napkins, and menus. Gojo was there talking with 2 of the girls Geto had just met. One of them was obviously smitten, giggling every time Gojo spoke, twirling her long hair around her finger, leaning in. She was teasing him about wearing sunglasses indoors. Geto was used to Gojo getting attention for his looks. Platinum white hair and vibrant blue eyes were a rare and lethal combination. Gojo was tall, lithe but muscular. His big personality could completely take over the room. Their food and drinks were finally delivered. Gojo used the distraction to back away from the girls. He looked around. "Is he looking for me?" Geto wondered. Gojo's eyes landed on him, and Geto could see his shoulders visibly relax. "Everybody's looking at Gojo, and he still notices me." Geto walked over to Gojo. He handed him a glass filled with milky soda and crushed ice. A bright pink straw bobbed in the fizzy liquid. They sat at the end of the wraparound couch, snacking on a plate of French fries. Geto's nerves felt less frayed with the distraction of food. They dipped their fries in spicy mayo and waited to see who the first karaoke singers of the night would be. Shoko sat by Gojo, sandwiching him between her and Geto. They got into a lively discussion about which songs Shoko would show off later. Shoko had a beautiful, strong singing voice. Geto had wondered how her voice remained so pretty, even with her habit of smoking almost half a pack a day. Gojo speculated she probably healed whatever damage smoking caused with reverse curse technique. They never asked her about it because she became defensive whenever someone brought up her smoking habit. Geto understood her clinging to her vice. Her job was stressful. He would never deny her something that brought her comfort. He also craved a smoke once in a while, and she always shared. Sota was the first singer. He was tipsy and brought Hana up to the front with him, much to her amusement. She giggled and patted him on the back as he stumbled through a love song Geto didn't recognize. Sota exaggeratedly gestured to Hana during the song and made everyone laugh. They sat through a few more performances, songs by idol groups and popular American artists. Shoko stood up to take her turn at the mic. Automatic by Utada Hikaru was queued up for her. She sang the sultry song effortlessly and smoothly, nailing the high notes. She got a standing ovation and bowed, laughing, trying to keep her short skirt from showing more than she intended. She sat back down and finished sipping her drink. The girl that was flirting with Gojo was next. The fast-paced intro to her song began, something that sounded straight from an anime soundtrack that fit her high-pitched voice. The lights and music began to overwhelm Geto. His hands were tucked into his sweater sleeves, thumbs peeking out of the holes. He tried to rest his palm casually against Gojo's leg for a little grounding touch. Gojo turned to him. "You okay?" he mouthed over the vocals of the anime song. Geto nodded. If Gojo was having fun, he didn't want to pull him away. Gojo grinned. He leaned in close and spoke in Geto's ear, his lips brushing against his skin. "Liar. It's okay. I think I've had enough music for the night. We can leave if you want." Geto nodded again. Gojo turned to Shoko and let her know they'd be taking off. "No, you're not allowed to leave until you sing," Shoko yelled over the clapping as the anime song concluded. "Who's leaving?" Soto slurred from the other side of Shoko. "Gojo and Geto, but they have to sing before they can go." The small crowd agreed and started calling out song suggestions. Geto hoped they wouldn't pull him up there, but Gojo beat him to it. Okay, I'll give you the pleasure of my performance. Then we really need to go." Gojo stood up and looked up his song in the catalog. He stood in front of the big screen TV, the flashing lights behind him accentuating the sharp angles of his profile. He grabbed the mic and struck a pose while waiting for the music to start. Geto stifled a laugh and brought his sweater-covered hands to his mouth. Ultra Soul by Bees began, a loud, ridiculous stadium song. It was perfect for Gojo's kinetic energy. He nailed the air guitar solo and held the microphone out for everyone to join in. "Everything's not a dream, not this or that. So hold your head high at once. If you want blessings, find out what happiness is and spread it about." The room erupted in applause before the song even finished. Geto stood up without thinking, clapping and laughing as Gojo made his way back to him. It was a little past midnight. The lights from the Akihabara storefronts were brighter than ever as they walked to the train station. On the ride home, they laughed about Gojo's performance and critiqued everyone else's. They walked hand in hand under the street lamps, fingers entwined as they neared the hill leading to Jujutsu High's gates. The only sound in the streets were their footsteps thudding on the concrete. Gojo looked over at Geto. "Suguru, what song would you have picked?" Gojo asked him. Geto was quiet for a moment. Their steps slowed. Without any prompt, his soft tenor voice cut through the stillness of the streets. "Even now, the blue lives on. No matter the words or prayers I said. Even though I got close, they never reached you. It was like a quiet love. Past the summery colors running down my cheek. I've always had cursed words for you stuck at the back of my throat. We'll meet again, won't we?" In a voice that barely sounded out. "Like the grains of a star of this infinitely expanding universe, you slip through my fingers." Gojo's breath hitched in his throat as Geto's voice trailed off. His eyes tightened and filled with tears. Even through somebody else's words, it still hit hard. They stopped in the beam of a street lamp, and Gojo gathered Geto in his arms. He pressed his body tight against him. He gripped Geto desperately, burying his face into his hair, unable to say the words spinning in his head. "I don't ever want to hear those words again. I don't ever want you to be in a place where you're looking for me or waiting for me. I want to be right here beside you, always. I'll never slip through your fingers, because I'll be the one holding onto you tight enough to stop the universe from tearing us apart."